Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, as the price of Bitcoin continues the short-term bullish relief, we're still heading towards some major price targets we need to pay attention to, as I am now in a $1 million Bitcoin long position, which I'll be talking about in just a moment, alongside the Bitcoin dominance, which is now officially breaking below a very crucial area on the price chart, which is massive news for the altcoin market, causing Ethereum to now attempt to break out above a very critical area of resistance, alongside XRP now testing this critical level of resistance. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, and the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. And of course, on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, we still technically have a bearish divergence to watch out for, but over the last one day, this has not changed. So getting straight into this 3-day time frame, and at least for now, we're still somewhat lacking momentum to either direction, at least relative to the 3-day chart. So overall, we're potentially still in a bit of a consolidation period on the 3-day time frame, but of course, on smaller time frames, this is broken up into short-term bearish trends and short-term bullish trends. But once again, at least for now, on the 3-day time frame and larger time frames, we don't really have a significant amount of momentum compared to what we've seen previously. At least for now, once again, we're looking relatively neutral at the moment in the momentum. And if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, obviously we're still continuing that bounce from this major point of support here, still sitting at around 112,000. But obviously, just recently, the price has started to stall a little bit at around 117,500 approximately, based on previous support at close to 117,000 to 118,000, now flipping into new resistance. But if we can break out beyond that level, just continue this short-term bounce here, of course, the next major point of resistance on the daily time frame is really starting at close to 120,000. And if we're zooming further into the short term, taking a look at the 8-hour Bitcoin price chart, at least as of right now, technically the short-term price structure is still bullish. As I've been talking about over the last 3 to 4 days now, for the last half a week, I've been saying obviously we have higher lows already confirmed, and more recently higher highs confirmed in the price of Bitcoin, just on the smaller time frames like the 4-hour chart, the 8-hour chart. And so obviously a couple of weeks ago now on the channel, right around here, I was talking about short positions, considering we're seeing bearish price structure in the short term and pointing towards a bit more of a pullback coming soon just in the short term. But then once again, starting around 3 days ago, 2 to 3 days ago now, I've been talking about long positions and obviously sharing this exact Bitcoin long position, which over the last one day, I have made some changes to this position. And so obviously, as I talked about over the last couple of days, I was already in this long position. It started off with around a $700,000 Bitcoin long position, and then right at around 117.5K, or really just above 117,000, give or take, around this little high right here, I did take some profits off the table, as you can see right here, which I shared in my last video. And so around this previous high right here, I basically reduced the size of the trade from a 700K trade down to a 600K Bitcoin long position. And then around these local lows just here, you can see that I've now actually added that back into the trade plus more. I've essentially now increased this long position to currently around a $1 million Bitcoin long position. And so obviously, if the price just continues playing out the same sort of price structure, the same sort of short-term bullish relief as we've already been seeing over the last half a week or so, as I've been talking about over the last half a week or so, of course, if this continues towards the next points of resistance, essentially I'll just be targeting those points of resistance, which I'll mention in just a moment, as potential take profit points to just slightly reduce the size of the trade and take a bit more profits off the table. Because personally, I don't see this as a long-term trade, considering obviously that larger bearish divergence and the lack in momentum on the 3-day time frame. We're not necessarily going to see a massive move straight away right now into record all-time highs. Maybe we get closer towards the all-time high, but at least in the shorter term, of course, we are in a short-term bullish relief right now. And so this is why I've been talking about long positions and sharing this very long position over the last 3 days or so, since basically right around here when I entered the trade. And the potential take profit points that I'll be watching out for right now, once again, one was around 117 to 117.5K, which I already followed through on just a couple of days ago. Once again, over the last 1 to 2 days, I did take a small amount of profits off the table out of that trade back then. But if the price keeps pumping towards around 118,500, closer towards 119,000, around there, I'll take a bit more profits off the table, slightly reducing the size of the trade, not closing the entire position. And then, of course, if the price continues further towards the upside, I'll most likely take a decent amount of profits off the table, reducing the trade by quite a decent portion if we get closer towards 120,000, just considering the fact that that is major resistance at closer towards 120,000. So if the price actually gets there, I will take a decent amount of profits out of this long position at closer towards 120,000. And also if the trade just slowly moves further and further into profits, I'll slowly move this stop loss further and further into profits so that even in the worst case scenario, essentially I secure more and more profits. And right now, even in this worst case scenario, if the price just crashed for whatever reason, I already have my stop loss at roughly around break even, and I already have secured a small amount of profits off the table. So even in the worst case scenario, I'm still making money from this trade. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we still have some massive liquidity building towards the upside at around $120,000 per Bitcoin. And usually, not always, but usually this kind of acts as a magnet for the price of Bitcoin, drawing the price of Bitcoin towards where there's a lot of liquidity. So right now, the price is trying to get drawn towards 120K. But once again, we do have some points of resistance to pay attention to, which can cause the price to struggle in the short term, which is why personally, I'll be looking at those points of resistance to take a bit of profits out of that long position. And so that is my exact Bitcoin trading strategy, as always, showing very transparently here on the channel exactly how I'm making money in this crypto market, no matter if we're seeing bullish price action or bearish price action like the last couple of weeks, talking about short positions around 2 weeks ago. And obviously, if you want to actually trade these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto to make a lot of easy profits in the crypto market, like what I'm doing right now, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I'm taking this trade right here over on BTNX. So I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNX below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading and deposit bonuses. For example, up to $40,000 in trading bonuses. And also, if you deposit just $1,000, you get a $200 bonus into your BTNX account. Basically free money from the exchange, which you can actually use to trade crypto on BTNX. But these bonuses here are only available if you use that first link below this video to actually make your BTNX account. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, or preparing to take the next trading opportunity, you might as well get set up ready to go using that first link below this video to take advantage of these major bonuses here. And in case you're wondering, BTNX is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want BTNX as an exchange, there's also 2bit as another option out there, another exchange that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page where you can also claim some massive bonuses, like for example, up to $50,000 in trading bonuses, and also a $30 sign up bonus and a 20% deposit rebate up to a max of 200 USDT. So for example, if you deposit just $1,000, you get a $200 bonus into your 2bit account. But once again, only if you use that link. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart right now on the 3-day time frame, because right now the Bitcoin dominance is finally attempting a break below this very important area on the price chart, which was sitting in between around 60.5% to 61% in the Bitcoin dominance. And now, technically speaking, we still need to actually confirm this break towards the downside, ideally with at least a daily candle close, but even better, it would be a 3-day candle close below around 60.5% to officially and technically confirm this break towards the downside. But even with this happening right here, of course, this is a bearish signal to watch out for the Bitcoin dominance, which is actually great news for really the overall crypto market, but especially the altcoin market. And this is not necessarily bearish for Bitcoin. It just simply means altcoins on average are doing better than whatever Bitcoin is doing. So of course, Bitcoin can still be looking very bullish, let's just say, while the Bitcoin dominance is dropping. It just means altcoins are even more bullish while this is happening. And so obviously over the last 1 to 2 weeks or so, while the Bitcoin dominance was finding support along this area and actually bouncing from this area, while that was just happening just in the short term, once again, that was a bit of a bearish signal for altcoins. And of course, over the last couple of weeks, we did see some decent pullbacks on a lot of the altcoin market. But now that we're finally breaking below this very important area on the Bitcoin dominance, especially if this confirms now with candle closes below this area, and especially if we fail to get back above that area, forming more bearish price structure in the Bitcoin dominance, once again, this is now pointing towards a continuation in the altcoin season. That is right, a very bullish time in the altcoin market, especially if we now confirm this break below this key area of support. And so this is why I've been saying time and time again, if you're an altcoin holder, altcoin investor, altcoin trader, basically if you're looking at the altcoin market at all, it's definitely important to at least keep an eye on what the Bitcoin dominance is doing, because this can give us a good indication information on what is happening in the altcoin market. Obviously, the last couple of weeks, a bit of bearish price action for altcoins with bullish price action in the Bitcoin dominance, but right now, bearish for Bitcoin dominance. Very good news for the altcoin market. And we can clearly see this now in Ethereum. We're seeing a lot of bullish price action in the short term. Not only are we just simply retesting this major area of resistance, as of recording this video, the price of ETH is now actually attempting a breakout above this very important area of resistance, sitting in between around 3.9K to 4.1K. And so all we need to see now is simply candle closes, at least on the daily time frame, but ideally a 3-day candle close above around 4.1K to officially confirm this breakout here. So once again, we're still waiting for a bit of confirmation, but so far so good. And especially if we can now hold above this area on the price chart, using this area as new support, of course, that would be bullish price structure, further confirming the breakout. And in this situation, if this further confirms here, honestly, we could likely see a major run towards the upside, most likely towards all-time highs, which for Ethereum is in the high $4,000 area, closer towards around 4.9K, give or take. And so I'd now expect support in this region, especially if we see candle closes above this area. Once again, support now in between around 3.9K to 4.1K. And if we're taking a look at this daily Ethereum price chart, we still have to be aware of a possible bearish divergence forming on the daily time frame. So of course, even though we're seeing bullish signals right now, it's not like we can just ignore any possible bearish signals that could be forming. But at least for now, this is not yet confirmed, but once again, still something to pay attention to, considering, yes, we are forming higher highs. We've already confirmed higher highs in the price in the candle closes, but right now we're still just possibly forming lower highs in the daily Ethereum RSI. And of course, we saw something similar around June this year, where we did see a push towards the upside in the price in the candle closes here, forming a new higher high in the price. But even while that was happening, of course, in the shorter term, that looked very bullish. A lot of people very excited about a possible breakout above these previous highs right here. But while that was happening, of course, the RSI was still forming lower highs, simply just forming a larger bearish divergence, which ultimately confirmed. And when that actually confirmed, we saw a larger pullback over the next couple of weeks. And so once again, overall, the trend, momentum, and price structure is still currently bullish, but we do have to be aware about this possible warning signal that's still forming, but not yet confirmed. But of course, if it does confirm, whatever happens here, I will be letting you know about it as soon as it happens here on this channel. So make sure you subscribe to this channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos. But once again, overall, when it comes to the altcoin market, definitely keep an eye on what the Bitcoin dominance is doing. If we continue a major dump in the Bitcoin dominance, that is great news for the altcoin market, as we're already starting to see in the short term. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the 2-day time frame, obviously, in the short term, we're continuing to see a short-term bullish relief, as I've been talking about here on this channel. And we're now potentially starting to break out above these previous highs again, sitting at roughly $180. And just in the short term, we were finding a bit of resistance at around 180. But if we continue this bullish relief, the next target and next major area of resistance to watch out for is in between around 190 to 200. And then, of course, only if we first confirm a breakout with candle closes above ideally 200, and actually holding above that area, only in that situation, I'd expect a continued bullish move towards this next Fibonacci level, sitting at around $230. But once again, right now, the next target is 190 to 200. And as for short-term support, in case for whatever reason we see any little pullback here, expect a lot of support in between around 167 to 170, and below that, more support at 156, and more support in between 143 to 146 if the price were to actually get back to those levels. But once again, as I've been saying throughout the video and many videos here on the channel, keep an eye on what the Bitcoin dominance is doing. If this continues dumping here, and especially if we confirm this break to the downside in the Bitcoin dominance with candle closes, that's good news for a lot of the altcoin market. And if we're taking a look at XRP on the weekly time frame, technically, despite short-term bullish price action, we're still technically seeing a larger bearish divergence on the weekly time frame, with higher highs already confirmed in the price and lower highs already confirmed in the weekly XRP RSI. And now, if we end up seeing a major all-time high breakout in the price with weekly candle closes in new all-time highs here, it is possible that maybe in the next few weeks we could temporarily invalidate this bearish divergence, but it's still quite unlikely would actually form a new higher high in the weekly XRP RSI above this high that we set back at the start of December 2024. And so in other words, even if we see a new all-time high breakout, maybe that could lead to more bullish price action over a period of maybe a couple of weeks, but maybe in a month or two from now, it's still possible we could just form another bearish divergence with a new lower high put in place and a new higher high put in place in the price later on. And of course, I've said something similar for Ethereum recently here on the channel many times with this bearish divergence on the daily time frame. Obviously, since all the way back down here, I said, yes, we could see most likely a short-term bullish move, but even if that were to happen, would still likely form lower highs in the RSI, considering how high this previous high was in the RSI, would still likely form lower highs, just forming a larger bearish divergence that could maybe confirm later on at some point after we first see a bit more short-term bullish price action. And so obviously that is playing out exactly as I've been talking about over the last week for Ethereum. And once again, we could possibly see something similar for XRP on the weekly time frame, but we still have that possible bearish divergence forming once again. And if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, obviously in the shorter term, we're continuing that short-term bullish relief, but also struggling at this major point of resistance sitting at close to $3.40. And so really, as we approach $3.40, so in the high $3.30 area in between roughly $3.35 to $3.40, we have major resistance around there, obviously causing the price to struggle around that area on the price chart, as I've already been saying many times since before we hit that exact level and started to struggle in that area. But if we actually see a confirmed breakout with candle closes above 340, in that situation, we'll likely see a test of all-time highs for the price of XRP. If we're looking at the daily candle closes, the all-time high in the candle closes is sitting at around $3.55 approximately, and the all-time high in the candle wicks, the actual all-time high, at least on this chart right here, is sitting at closer towards around $3.65 approximately. And so those will be the next short-term price targets and possible points of resistance for XRP, but once again, only if we first confirm a breakout above 340, which for now is the point of resistance to pay attention to just in the short term at $3.40. And if we were to see a continued rejection here, a bit more of a pullback, in that situation, expect major support at roughly around 310 to 315, give or take, and also significant support at around $2.90 to close to $3, acting as very important support there. And overall, technically, the price structure on the daily time frame is still currently looking very similar to what we saw near the beginning of the year. Obviously, we're seeing larger bearish price structure forming lower highs and lower lows on the daily time frame, kind of like what we're seeing right now, at least as of recording this video. But of course, during this larger bearish price structure, we saw some major short-term bullish moves, short-term bullish reliefs during the larger bearish price structure, like what we're currently seeing. But of course, that would be broken, would actually start forming larger bullish price structure again if we break out above all-time highs. So we need to get, first of all, above that $3.40 level before we can start talking about a possible confirmation in a change in the larger price structure. But the short-term situation is obviously a short-term bullish relief. And once again, definitely keep an eye on what a lot of other altcoins are doing, but especially the Bitcoin dominance. If this continues playing out a breakdown here, that can help XRP and a lot of the altcoin market with some more bullish price action. It's a very likely outcome if the Bitcoin dominance remains bearish. And if we're taking a look at Chainlink on the daily time frame, obviously Chainlink over the last couple of days, as we're seeing this breakdown in the Bitcoin dominance, Chainlink is experiencing some major bullish price action right now, and actually starting to break out above some major resistance here, which was sitting at roughly around $20 to $21. Now, as of recording this video, we've not yet actually confirmed this breakout above $21, but obviously we have just created a new higher high, which is now obviously bullish price structure continuing here on the daily time frame, ultimately continuing a larger bullish trend. Clearly, we have higher lows and higher highs on the daily time frame now. And so if we see another little pullback for whatever reason, I'd now expect supports based on this previous high, based on previous resistance, flipping into new support at roughly around $20. And as for the next major price target, if we continue more of a bullish breakout here, and especially if we confirm the breakout with candle closes above $21, in that situation, the next major target towards the upside is sitting at around $24 based on this Fibonacci level. But if we're taking a look at this daily Chainlink price chart, we also have to be aware of a possible bearish divergence currently forming. As I always say, even if we're seeing bullish price action, yes, while this is happening, this is bullish, but we cannot ignore possible warning signals that are forming that may end up confirming later on, maybe in a few days or in a few weeks from now, because clearly we're forming higher highs in the price in the candle closes here, but we also are forming lower highs in the daily Chainlink RSI. And the last time we saw a major bearish divergence like this on the daily Chainlink price chart was back here, right at the end of 2024, around December 2024. And obviously back then on the price chart, if you were only looking at the price action by itself and not the RSI, things would have been looking very bullish around mid-December 2024. If you were just looking at the price action by itself, obviously a lot of people would have been very excited about all of this bullish price action that had just played out. But if you're looking at the RSI still forming lower highs as the price was creating a higher high, this was a sign that we're not really seeing massive momentum following through to point towards a massive continuation in the trend towards the upside. Because usually when we form lower highs in a price oscillator like the RSI, for example, or especially if we see a decline in volume, things like that, indicators like that are basically indications that we might be running out of steam in the bullish trend. We could be due to see a bit of a cool off or a possible pullback at some point in the next few weeks or months. But once again, as of recording this video, we've not yet actually confirmed this bearish divergence, so we could likely continue a bit more bullish price action in the short term, but maybe in a few days from now, maybe in a week from now, for example, we could ultimately confirm this bearish divergence at some point later on, which at that point, obviously, that would be a warning signal confirmed, pointing towards a possible pullback or cool down in the price. And as always, I'll keep you up to date on what's happening in the crypto markets every day here on the channel, showing my trading strategies here on the channel completely for free, very transparently as always. So obviously, if you like this information, definitely subscribe and like the video down below. And of course, if you want to take trades just like this for yourself, check out the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade these moves to make a lot of easy profits in the crypto market, make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.